What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Yoga Tantra Healing channel. In today's video, I want to talk about Kundalini awakening and how we have to forget our old self in order to become who we are. In order to become who we actually are, our true being, our true nature, we have to forget who we used to be. And this is one of the biggest experiences of Kundalini awakening that you will have once you really have that Kundalini awakening. I'm not talking about just feeling energy. So for anyone that's new to the channel, I talk a lot about different practices, different yoga, different tantra, different healing methods that we can use to start to feel that Kundalini energy, more sensitivity, to bring that electricity and that electric energy, that non-physical electromagnetic energy from within us to awaken, as well as to be able to gather more information and energy so that we can feel more of what's happening outside of us. You can call this resensitizing. Kundalini resensitizes us to the original nature of this experience we have that we call the human experience. Now, I'm here to tell you that you're more than just human. I'm more than just human. I'm not bound by this body. I'm not bound by where I come from. I'm not bound by the cultures that I grew up in. I'm not bound by the school system that taught me. I'm not bound by the religions that I learned from. I'm not bound. I am no longer bound. I'm no longer stuck in those old things. The foods they used to feed me. The way my friends used to treat me. The way partners used to treat me. Or what they expected of me. Of what people expected, friends, family, partners, businesses, religions expected of me. I am no longer any of those things. What I am now that I've had this awakening and that I continue to walk in my awakening, and like I said, not just for the highs. I made that video on the highs and lows, or like spiritual awakening comes in waves, learning to be okay with whatever state of the awakening you're in. Sometimes you have this high, you're like a month of just rushing energy and you're just having all these downloads and different meditative experience, and you're feeling so close to God and you're feeling so close to yourself, and you're cutting off old layers, old karmas. Because you could even look at all these things that you were born into as karmas, all the old self. Who you were told to be isn't who you truly are. I have a song on my music channel and my music project you can check out called Who We Truly Are. And that song is about breaking down boxes and barriers that were put on us by others, society, religions, people, friend groups, business groups, people who had adverse agendas, people that wanted to change us to fit into their thing. And they may say, oh, leave your old self behind. This is the new you. Some people can do that too. So that song's all about reclaiming the self. Go check that out if you're interested. Because who we truly are goes beyond all these things. It goes beyond my name. It goes beyond my religious beliefs and practices, even my yogic practice. Because in yoga and tantra, we have a very, you could say, religious way of approaching it, and we also have the tantric way of approaching it, which is more open to what is real, to what is actually present, and we can let go of things that don't serve. Even when you learn from a religion, let the old identity of what that religion is behind. You may learn something new. I've met a lot of people that have resistance to, say, reading even scriptures from a Bible. And I was there at one point. I resisted it on my spiritual awakening. I was like, no, you can't put me back in that box. And now that I've cleared that agenda that others wanted to put me in, if I were to read that, from the worldly perspective, what the world wants me to be, they would say, oh, go be religious, go be a Christian, a good Christian, and do everything you're told, and don't ever swear or go out of line, and don't make love and don't enjoy life, just be this thing that we want you to be. You look at religion, and a lot of the religious people or give up money and, all these things. All those religious figures. It doesn't matter if it's Christianity. I'm not singling out Christianity. It's just in the West here, that's the most dominant religion. And I'm sure we've all been influenced it to a certain degree. The whole world has. And there's a lot of great truths and roots in esoteric, ancient Coptic Christianity, you could say, or Kemetic roots that are found and transferred into the Bible because it's like a storage book. But if you were to look at me and be like, you can't do that, you said you're a Christian, I'd be like, no, I don't identify with that. My mind doesn't even attach to that identity, but I can pick up a Bible and read it and see the Word of God in it, and I can also see where it's been altered and say I don't have to be what this is telling me. I can feel the experiences that I relate to within it, and I can be who I am today without attaching to this identity. So that's just like an example of like, once you evolve past the old self, then you can even go into like, all right, let me try this out again. Let me approach the Bible from a new perspective, from a non-religious perspective, from a non-dual perspective. Anything you read, anything you hear, any media you consume, try to see it from that non-duality, not from like, oh, if I read this, I have to be identified with it, or if I do this, then I can't do that sort of thing. That is duality. That is the good and evil. And I've, touched upon that briefly. But again, this is how we become our true self. Kundalini awakening will shatter all those identities. I'm using these examples, religion, because in spirituality, we kind of mix the two together. Spirituality isn't shunning religion, while a lot of the modern New Age will do that. Very absurdly, they will do that. Like they'll shun Hinduism and they'll shun Christianity, or they'll shun Rastafari, or they'll shun whatever, because they don't understand it. And also because they don't want to be boxed in that cage. They found spirituality, now they're free from all those identities. Well, don't get rid of that thing. Just like a religious person would say everything spiritual is demonic. The whole Bible's spiritual. They did rituals, they did chants, songs, different practices, greeting the sun, having the temples, having the offerings, all these different things. I'm not even going to get into the spirituality behind the Bible because that's a whole topic of itself, and it's not my area of expertise to go explaining that to everybody, even though I know the truths within my own being. You can search elsewhere for that. It's not what this is about. But I'm showing how we tend to get bound by these identities, whether it's a religion, whether it's schooling or parenting, that told us this is what we want you to be. You should grow up to be a doctor. Why would you want to do art? Why would you want to do something that makes you happy and others happy? You should go make money. Or it's just that. It's not a specific job. They just want you to make money. They don't want you to follow your dreams. This is the rigid society we've been put into. Kundalini awakening will shatter that. It sure did for me, because my Kundalini awakening started early. It started senior year of high school. And I was around all these people trying to put me back into the box of the Brett they remembered. I'm sure if those people saw me today, they wouldn't even recognize me. Not just my physical transformation. My skin glows differently. My hair has new sheen to it. My energy, just the energy coming off of my body and my field, is entirely different. The way I think, the way I speak, the way I take action in the world, all these things would be different. It's been about 11, 12 years, almost 12 years now, since I've started this active awakening. Then there's, you could say, the passive awakening. So some people have an experience that catalyzes them to be like, oh, everything I've ever believed about myself and about the world and about people and spirituality and all these different topics, everything's wrong. Now I have to go and relearn everything. They have like a psychedelic trip, or it could be an NDE, a near-death experience, an out-of-body experience, an OBE. They could experience astral projection or lucid dreams. Then all of a sudden they question their reality. They may experience, Kundalini syndrome. All of a sudden they're getting these different, energies, and they're feeling like they're ill, like they don't know what's wrong with them, but it's like spiritual and it's not explainable. You can't explain this stuff with science. In the West, they just go, oh, you just blah, 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 blah. Try to prescribe you some medicine and suppress it, just like, oh, you have ADHD, here, let's give you these pills, and then you'll be normal like everyone else. It's probably just a trauma response. Most, if not all, of those diseases come from these deep-rooted traumas and genetic dysfunctions, DNA dysfunctioning. Our true self, again, is also being able to embody our full self, activating the DNA again, activating the brain, healing the brain. Did you know how much trauma can affect our brain? How much our past self is, how much we are attached, I should say, our past self is attached to that trauma. You could say the part of the ego, not the, part that we use consciously when we've integrated our shadow, but the part of the shadow that is unconscious, that is uncontrolled. If we look at that, that's where all these traumas attached to, like, oh, I could never get over that breakup. Gosh, I can't believe I messed that up. And then for the rest of life, oh, my friends were attached to my girlfriend and they like her more. If you're a girl, my boyfriend was everything and nobody likes me anymore. I experienced that. I dated someone for a few years, and as soon as I broke up with her because she wasn't willing to let go of the past, she wasn't willing to embrace this awakening with me, she could only come for so long. And then there was this rift between us. No matter how much healing I did to, clear my karma, my past karma, and become into my new self through my awakening, she wasn't able to keep that journey going. So we left consciously. I tried, a few times to give that relationship space and then come back together. And it just didn't work out. And then I saw all the old friends treating me different just because I didn't have that girl around. I was a new person. I was changed. I was also partially traumatized because I couldn't believe how much my friends would turn their back on me just because I didn't want to be with a girl anymore. Oh, because you think I believe in Christianity, so that means I have to stay with this one woman because that's what you want from me? Oh, my family probably thought the same thing, or anyone that sees me from a religious lens. Because if you look at what I speak on, yeah, I believe in God. I believe in the Word of God. I also believe it from many different perspectives and cultures and traditions, and not just one. And at the same time, you can't tell me that I'm stuck with somebody and then treat me differently. You see, so I had to learn, okay, I could go back to that relationship. I could listen to them. I could make up, instead of break up, and be stuck in this vibration that I know isn't the new me. It's attached to the old me. We served each other's path for so long, I couldn't bring her up because she didn't want to rise to that level of consciousness. So I made that choice. Okay, we aren't resonating at this point. I love you. I'm moving on. And the backlash I got from friends, family, neighbors, some people that didn't even know me. It's just like, wow, they don't like who I actually am, because if they did, they would be like, you've been working on yourself, man. You've really put in a lot of work to change. You know how hard that is? You know how hard it is to rewrite your genetic programming, to rewrite the trauma that has been put on your brain, PTSD from, cult abuse. I was in this fucking cult at one point. Basically, you might as well call it, because the whole world's a cult. A cult, we talk about occult information here. And a cult is just when they try to, just like religion, it's like, this is the only way to do it. If you don't believe it how we do it, you're wrong. And oh boy, did I get bullied by that group. And it made me realize, is like, I came out of religion into spirituality. I found these people. I was like, yeah, we embrace spirituality. And then I try to bring my spirituality. Yeah, I teach yoga and Tantra and Kundalini. And they're like, oh, that's great for stretches. And Kundalini's demonic. But we're spiritual. And we're smarter than you. So you should listen to us and pay us your money. That's why I don't sit here and go, you guys should only listen to my authority. Pay me $1,000 a month and I'll, activate all your chakras and awaken Kundalini. It's like, no, I don't give you those false promises. I give you the practices that I actually did, and you can pay me a decent little bit if you'd like that firsthand experience of someone who has activated all of his chakras by the grace of the Divine Mother and the Heavenly Father. Opened my third eye and had Kundalini awakening and seen the unity. I've had that experience, so yeah, I can charge a little bit more than most, and I'm also going to give you real guidance, real therapy, real lessons, life lessons. So go into the links in my description, get in contact with you if that's something you're interested in. But I'm never going to give you these false promises like, oh, I activated your chakras and this and that, and I did this, pay me this fee, and then I'll do this thing for you. And no, like, that isn't how we work. I'm going to share the practices with you here on this channel that you can do freely with us as I practice all the things I preach on my channel, whether it's the mantra meditations or the yoga asanas. I do all these things daily. I don't need to show them or showcase all of them. Just enough to give you guys some basics. And if you stuck with that for the rest of your life, you may have an experience. You may not. That's up to you and your connection with the divine, your connection to God and Goddess, and the truth inside of you, the truth of who you are. How much are you willing to let go of? People do yoga poses. People chant mantras. People are spiritual. They burn their incense. They do their little meditations, and they have their rigid schedules, and they, I say, oh, I did all my stuff today. Now I can go be a fool. And I'm spiritual, though. I'm cooler than you. So, that superiority complex, or spiritual people bashing religious people, and then religious fearing people are just like, that's all they have for spirituality. So I'm here like, hey, I'm with you, I'm for you. I'd love to learn from what you have to share, and I'm here to humble you and be like, dog, you ain't the only one out here. You ain't the only truth. So don't bash someone's religion just because you don't understand it, or you haven't gone to the roots to find the truth. Because yeah, they've definitely watered down all the roots, and they give you, things that were added and taken away. They even say that in the Bible. Don't add or take away from this. It's already been done thousands of times. So if you read it, you're reading a adulterated version, you could say, a watered down and mixed up version of the original text. But if you can just see it for what it is, without just seeing it face value, but looking for the deeper message, as it's written in allegory and mystery and symbolism, numerical code, alphabetical code, all those different things, something like that becomes a spiritual guidebook. Something as beautiful as, or to some people it's a terrible thing, a Bible. It becomes a spiritual guidebook. It's like, wow, I can have my connection to the Most High, and I can learn from others' experiences that have walked the path and chosen righteousness over wickedness, and I can learn that knowledge of good and evil and what is life all about, love, to love like Christ, the whole law. You can get so stuck on the laws of religion, and then Christ just comes and he's like, what is the law? Or they asked him, like, what is the law, or the true commandment? And he's like, love, to love the Lord thy God with all the heart and mind, with all your being. That's a heart chakra and a crown chakra activation right there. In just a few words, like, oh, love God. Yeah, that's so easy. No, it isn't. You don't love God because you don't love yourself. If you loved yourself, you would love God. And if you love God, you will love thy neighbor as thyself. And that becomes that reflection. You realize, wow, look at the world. Is love prevalent in the world? No, because they're attached to the old identity. They're attached to the old paradigms, the old religion, the old government system, the old financial systems, all these things, the old identities of who they are. Oh, I got to keep going. I got to keep hustling. I got to keep making money. I got to keep the status quo. I can't step too out of line, because if I do that, I might hurt, someone's feelings, or might step on someone's toes a little bit, and then they're not going to like me anymore. And it's like, hey, I'm willing to lose all my old friends, all my old beliefs, all my old identities, and every complex, even as a musician, cut out, I deleted a bunch of my old stuff because I had already had a certain awakening up to that point. I was like, well, I want to sharpen up. I want to get more professional with this. So let me, get rid of all of that old self and all the identities they had over that version of myself. I called myself Medicine, and everyone was like, oh, what are you, like the medicine man and this and that? It's like, no, you are the medicine. And I refuse to be attached to your identity of what a medicine musician is supposed to sound like, look like, act like, period, point blank. Because you can't put me in that box. So I was like, get out of here. I'll start over. I'll start anew because I'm a new self. God has made a new self in me. And I'm just here to help you find that new self in you. That true self. The self that is truly loving. Loves God in all things. Loves the goddess in all of creation. Meaning plants, animals, even rocks, water, insects, the smallest thing. Having compassion for the smallest thing. And then be willing to change again, to love thy brethren, thy sisterin, with all thy heart and mind as well. And again, that little thing, love the Lord thy God, love thy neighbor as thyself. He says this, and the whole law and all the prophets are hung on this, or they are, everything they stand for comes from this principle of love, the heart. I'm not even going to get into the laws of Ma'at and all that stuff, because if we look back at the ancient traditions, this is what it was, balancing the heart on the scales with our choices and our actions. And the point of that isn't to be this perfect person, although the closer we get to that perfection, the closer we get to embodying, one, our true being, our higher self in union, in balance with the physical self, with the lower self. This is when the animal self becomes liberated and then freed into the higher self, and the God being, the God man, the goddess woman can emerge. True kings and queens. If you ever hear lyrics or people talking about that, like, oh, I'm a king, I'm a queen. It's easy to say that for the superficial value. Oh, because I got money, so I'm a king. I got cars and girls and this stuff, so I'm a king. Superficial king, what I'm saying? But if you're, by the grace of God, the King of Kings, the Queen of Queens, even if I can say that without being sacrilegious, probably is, but when God crowns you as king, he's giving you that crown of life. It doesn't mean I'm going to have a palace, I'm going to rule over people, and I'm going to have all these women and servants and stuff. Maybe, but at the end of the day, it's like, look at Christ. He was a king in his own right, and he was sovereign. He walked on his own path. He didn't need authority. He didn't need religion. He left everything behind to be his true self. He was a king. Now you see, again, so being crowned king, getting that crown chakra, got my, this isn't a hairstyle, by the way. These are the locks, Jata. Jata Dharaya, the master with the matted locks. As that energy reached my crown, my locks can finally tie up like this. I was like, oh, it makes sense. Put the hair up. I was getting sick of putting it in a bun back here. It was starting to pull on my neck. I was like, oh, what? I have this neck pain. So I started putting it up on the crown, and then I was like, oh wow, this brings the energy up. Even in the yogic tradition, they say tie the hair up during the day, let it down at night. So that's just, with the sun, the energy up, with the moon, let the locks flow down. Anyways, I want to finish up this video because it's such an important topic, but it's all these things that I'm touching into. It's like, how much are you willing to leave the old behind? Your old village and all that stuff, your old friends and family. Even again, in the words of Yeshua, or Jesus, his mother and his brothers and sisters apparently were following her, some crowd, and then a disciple or someone was like, hey, your family is calling for you. Why are you still going? And he's like, these are my brother, my mother, and my sister, the ones that do the word and will of my Father, of God. And he's saying that I'm not tied to these old identities of, my blood relatives and brothers and all those things. I'm here for what I've been called to do, to be my true self, and those who walk with me in that truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. When we walk with Christ, we realize that's part of the awakening. we are freed from the old self, which sometimes can be, again, families, institutions, religions. Again, how many times did he rebuke the religious Pharisees, even in the temples? Woe unto you, hypocrites. And they created a religion around him. The same people that, treated him so poorly, crucified him for speaking the truth. So we don't work that way in this time. But we can learn from this to realize, like, wow, okay, I'm starting to see a little bit bigger picture. So if you're following me on this channel, make sure you like and subscribe, leave me a comment, get in touch with us, there's links in the description. Check out some of the other videos, because this is kind of a deeper subject. And in doing this little video, I was able to even untether from my old self and use some of my life experience to hopefully reach you and yours. If you've had struggling relationships that you fought for, and you really did your spiritual part to become a better man or woman, and they just didn't end up working out. Maybe you lost friends from it. Maybe you lost a job or work opportunities and friends and connections and colleagues, even family, over the matter. Maybe you had a Kundalini awakening and you're just, you've been so high in this connection of love for God and wanting to embody your true self, and you don't know how to land back in to the new being. You're still having to get rid of the old, but you're feeling the connection. That's where the shadow work comes in. I made a little video on that. Check that out. Because we have to be able to untether and untangle from our, what we could call traumas or past experiences, karmas, whether that's religious, whether that's societal, whether that's from the schooling system again, whether that's from peers, and just the pressure of society trying just to mold us into an image. Remember, we can't be molded into images. I'm not here to be worshipped again. I'm not here to be idolized. Just like it's the same with Christ. We're speaking of principles that were later, idolized, and then worship this instead of what's inside of you, the connection to God inside of you. That's what we teach you. True yoga, again, is union. I believe Christ was a yogi, and some others do as well. Maybe you see that, maybe you don't. And I don't mean someone that did postures, maybe you did. But a yogi in the sense of someone that lived for union with God as the first thing. That's why he's always going alone to the mountains and to prayer and all these things. A true yogi, meditating in the forest, meditating in prayer. A true yogi in the highest sense. Because again, yoga isn't a religion, although it could be seen as one. You have to do these postures every day, you have to wear these white clothes, and you have to burn incense, and you have to be a vegetarian, and you have to be a perfectly sattvic all the time. You have to be so pure and light and everything. That's great, I'm all for the sattvic Vedic approach, or the Brahmanic approach as well, which is all about renunciation. But then there's the tantric approach, and Yeshua is also a tantric, You can argue with that on me as well. But there's some good books on that. I think it's called the Tantric Christ or something like that. The Tantric Jesus. Check it out. Plenty of resources on that and the correlations between the two and how they relate more than they argue, or what would be the opposite of being connected. If we take away the religious identity, the old way of looking at it, and really see it from a perspective of lived experience, that is where we'll find our true self. No matter what you're pursuing, no matter what religion you come from, no matter what awareness, no matter what stage of awakening you're in, whether you're in the first ego death where you just had that root chakra activated, and all of a sudden you're like, I can't go back. I just experienced this bliss and love for God. There was nothing I needed outside of me. It was just this internal experience, so much love and heavenly love and a divine love that doesn't come from things or people or experiences or places, but an inward experience that is truly transcendental, unexplainable. You may have that and it will shatter the old self, and then you look around and be like, wow, these friends, I can't relate to them. They pull me right back into that unconscious state. Or, oh wow, my family is against this. They don't like this new energy in me. They don't like the fact that I'm saying no and standing up for myself now, and that I have to untangle my energy from certain ways of being that were programmed into me, those unconscious behaviors again. Kundalini awakening will bring that unconscious forward, and now you have the choice to go, okay, I can choose the path of Christ, which is awakening, center. I see Kundalini awakening and the path that Christ walked as synonymous with each other, because we all have that Christ consciousness within us, awakening, waiting to be awakened, and our connection to God be realized just like he did. But then also, or we could go the path of go back to the way things were, or basically try to pretend like you aren't going through these things, and that can cause a lot of resistance, and then eventually you'll come back to the path and you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, like I tried to do both. I tried to keep these people around and keep going, or I tried to stay in these experiences that weren't working for me and continue my Kundalini awakening, and they kind of fought each other. So I realized I got to let go of these people. Maybe I got to break up. Maybe I got to find a new job. Maybe I need to create my own avenue of work. Maybe I need to start a business. Maybe I need to, start embodying my talents and just let that be how source brings me financial abundance and all these things, and all these different things that will happen. You have to make that choice to say, okay, I'm done with this, I'm gonna walk. That's what the they can say walking the straight and narrow path would be, is that middle way. Again, Tantra is the middle way. You can say, yeah, there's a left hand path, there's a right hand path. Here we bring the paths together in yoga. Again, yoga union. And then we start to see this is the path. It's like you're balancing constantly these two energies, Shiva and Shakti. It's all connected. It's all connected, baby. So hopefully you like this video. Again, subscribe, leave a like if you enjoy this content, and get into contact with us. I'd love to share teachings and practices that could help catalyze your Kundalini awakening, as well as be a guide to help you in those uncoverings of the unconscious, with my 12 years of experience directly on the path, as well as a lifetime of just being a more spiritually connected being, an individual. I'm here to help you through those harder stages, as well as give you the practices that make the awakening more easy, more full of bliss, more connective, things to look forward to every day, things that charge you up and give you that joy for life, help you step forward into the new self and out of the old, to become again who we are, is to let go of the old self. So as we let go of the old self, we become our true self, and our true self is one with God. Our true self is one with God, with the goddess. Our true self is a being like Christ, that we want to walk in that way like Christ did. And that is the alchemy. That is the Kundalini awakening. And that is the experiences we're sharing here. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Check everything else out on the channel, and I will see you in another video. Namaste.